Well, this is the day we take the Thunderbird out for a ride. It's been way too long, but it's time to get her out of the Thunder Cave, fire her up, take her for a spin. It's going to be awesome. Here we go. Petrol that I got left over. It's always a bit tricky taking the Thunderbird out of the Thunder Cave because I'm kind of reversing her out like this. I guess the first challenge is to figure out if these handlebars will actually fit through the opening here. Oh, it's a squeeze. Oh, it's a squeeze. Definitely a squeeze. Definitely. Let's get those up. I'm scraping both sides right now. Oh, just. Holy cow. Oh, those bars are nice though. They are nice. You just feel like you got a bit more control over the bike. Nice. Where are we going to go today though? That's the thing. Okay, so the revs are not dropping that quickly. Not as quickly as they normally would. Not too fussed about it. But probably indicative of some carb balancing that's needed. But it's running very nicely. That's encouraging. After kind of pulling it apart to know that she works just fine. And that is actually night and day having these bars on. Handling wise, that changes the whole feel of the bike. That's nice, and I'm sat in a much better position to be able to kind of move around and swivel my head. If anything, I'd have the bars just a hint further back, but I think that's just fine. This is awesome. Oh, so good to be back on the bird. And she's an absolute beauty. And I'm just going to pop in there and get some air in my tyres because I'm pretty sure we might need some. How does this even work, for goodness sake? There's literally no point in ever using these things because they just don't work. Day like today, it feels like the winter's coming to an end. So we got a little bit of cold weather left, but today we're about 13 degrees, something like that. That feels just fine to me. A little bit chilly, but I don't have any thermals on. Just got my riding trousers on. I've got a t-shirt on underneath my jacket, so I'm not really wrapped up warm. And it just feels great. It feels so nice to be out on the bird again. I was a bit concerned, to be honest, because not having done any servicing on this and kind of neglecting her quite badly, to be fair, and then kind of pulling it apart the way I did. It's like, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes. Just absolutely fine. Just riding beautifully, actually. This feels great. And I'm also itching for a bit of a ride as well, you know, like a long one with the wingman of the road on the back. Maybe do an overnighter somewhere. I've got to try out that wingman kitchen that they sent me. This is actually the little village that I grew up in from the age of 3 until I was like 11 or something, 12 maybe. Pensford. You know, when you're younger, you're like, that's all you need, isn't it? Some fields to run around in and all that stuff. And the little primary school down on the corner that I went to. When you're a kid, you don't need much, do you? And then when you get into your teenage years, you think, oh, I want to get out of small places. I want to go and live somewhere a bit more vibrant. And then as you get older, there's my little primary school right now. Then as you get older, you just want to go back to living in a little village again. And I kind of wouldn't mind that now. So that's the Royal Crescent up there. We'll go and ride along the front of it, shall we? So you can take a look. Here is the Royal Crescent. Undoubtedly the original road. It's bumpy as hell. There's the Royal Crescent Hotel right there. It's kind of a hotel right in the middle of all of this. But I think the majority of this is residential. What a great place to live. I'm glad these cameras have got image stabilization. Otherwise you'll be having some kind of fit watching this. Alright, so that is the Royal Crescent in the background there. Alright, I'm going to go and find myself a place to have a little coffee, because I kind of need that right now. And I tell you, these handlebars, oh my life, they have changed everything. It's just how I remember the bike when I picked it up. I think I had the Speed triple handlebars that I put on, and they really didn't work for me, not at all. But these are something else. They just fit the bill so well. I could park there, couldn't I? Can I get back up there though? The sun's out. Oh, this is awesome. Let's get myself parked up here, shall we? So here we are in the little city of Bath. Get myself all locked up here. I've parked literally right outside a coffee shop. Feels good to be here in Bath, and feels awesome that the Thunderbird is running well. Can have a little walk around in Bath, show you a couple of things. And this is the place I spent a lot of my youth, mainly because there was a couple of brilliant drum shops in Bath. So I would come here and buy my drumsticks and all that kind of thing. It's just a lovely place. So I'm going to show you a couple of bits. We are going to start at a place called Pulteney Bridge. And I'm guessing a lot of people that are watching this, if you're from the UK, you've probably been to Bath at some point or other. And if you haven't, you probably should. Especially when the sun's out like today. Definitely what you need. A bit of sunshine in our lives right now. Because it's been grey and wet and horrible for ages, and we're done with that. I don't really like walking through the streets filming myself, but a lot of people do it these days, don't they? So you kind of got to get over it. Anyway, let's go to Pulteney Bridge. There's just never a lack of street performers in Bath. Here we go. Up behind me at the top there, it's a spa. So there's a big pool, heated pool right at the top of that building there. I went there once years ago with Lillian. You can get kind of afternoon tea and then go in the pool and all the different stuff you do in a spa. All lovely and all that. I tell you what though, just getting out on the bike again, awesome. But it's made me think I need to do another trip soon. And I got a few things that I wouldn't mind doing. One of them is just kind of a bit of an overnighter, where I just take the wingman of the road, do an overnighter, maybe somewhere in Wales or something like that. Oh, I've never been in there before. Let's have a walk through here and see what's going on. Ooh. Not sure I'm even allowed in here, but here we go anyway. Ah. Wow, never been here before. The Chapel of St. Michael within. That's nice. The chatty bench. I suppose I can sit down and have a little chat here then, can't I? So I'm definitely in need of another trip at some point. And I think I'm going to start with just like maybe an overnighter, going to Wales or something, find somewhere to camp, take the wingman on the road with me, take the wingman kitchen that they sent for free, which was really nice of them, and maybe give myself a challenge of making like a proper decent steak in the middle of nowhere, and have an overnighter. Obviously the weather's starting to turn. You can see today it's so much nicer than it has been for a long time. Obviously I wouldn't mind doing a bit of a long one again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit in another kind of 5,000 mile trip down through Europe and into Turkey. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe something over into Europe somewhere. Maybe not quite as far as that though, but 3 or 4 days away, camping, doing what I did before, because it was good for the soul. And like the strange thing is, like we hit the summer now, August, and that's obviously a little way away from now. We're what, 5-6 months away from that now, but and that will mark 2 years since I rode down to Turkey. 2 years. I mean, where has that time gone? Last year was a bit of a write-off, filled my whole year up with just busyness and craziness. But I think to think that 2 years have gone by without any major kind of ride is a bit sad. It's got to make it happen. You know, life happens, doesn't it? So much goes on. Our lives just get filled with so many things that we often don't even want to do, but we end up having to do them anyway. And I'm definitely moving towards that of being like, okay, start prioritizing the stuff that you really want to do, because you're 50 this year, Matt. Not that I'm panicking about it, because I'm not, but it's also a wake-up call that life doesn't slow down for you. Time doesn't slow down for you. And if you want to make things happen, you actually have to go and make things happen. And the world's a funny place at the moment, isn't it? There's so much going on. It's like, oh my God. Anyway, it would be great to hear about some of your trips and some of your tours that you're planning, because I know that many of you that ride, you're going to be thinking about, what am I going to do when the weather turns now? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And also, it would be really interesting to hear a real decent kind of biker hangouts, biker cafes, biker places. I know I've been to the Baffle House in Wales. I think they've opened another one now. If you've been there, let me know. I'd like to take a trip out and take a look at that as well. That'd be fun. So another thing I've been thinking about a little bit recently, and that is influence. Like, how much influence do I have? I can often think that, like, if I'm not happy with something in the world, for example, or if I feel like things are going a little bit kind of crazy, I can think a little bit kind of defeatist about it, that, well, I have no influence over it anyway, so, you know, what's the point? What's the point in even thinking about it? What's the point in even getting involved? But actually, in reality, I probably have quite a lot of influence in certain areas of life. And you probably do as well, because, like, I've got 3 sons, for example. I have loads of influence over them. They are obviously individuals and do their own thing and, you know, can survive just fine without me. But even so, I still have loads of influence over them, and people that respect me and love me and I spend time with them, friends, I'll have influence over them as well. You know, there's a couple of things that have happened over the years where I've found out that I've had more influence than I thought. And some of those things were, you know, turned out to be negative, that I should have said something that I didn't say, or I should have done something that I didn't do, or I did something or said something thinking that it didn't mean much, only to find out that it really did mean a lot to that person. And then you realize that actually you do have influence, even though you think you've got very little. And I think when we're looking at, you know, the world as it is at the moment and stuff that's going on and whether we agree with everything or not, that's kind of irrelevant for me, because we've all got different reasons for believing different things. But you can often feel powerless to have any positive influence over things. And so you step back and you don't say anything, or you don't do anything. And the very fact that you're not saying anything, the very fact that you're not doing anything also can have an influence on people, because they think, well, if they're not bothered about it, why should I be? Or if they're not saying anything about it, why should I say anything? So everybody kind of starts to just go into themselves and get a little bit quiet, and then greater forces than us can just take over and do whatever they want. Now, I'm not getting political here. I'm just talking about our responses to life and what happens around us on a big scale and a small scale. I just think it's really important to realize that we do have influence, and therefore we need to take responsibility and use that influence as best we possibly can. And also keeping kind of golden rules in everything. And that is that we don't know everything. I don't know everything. I can't give a conclusive, definitive answer or solution to most things in this world, or even in my own life, because I'm seeing it from my perspective. And actually there's probably 4 or 5 different other perspectives to see the same thing from. So I need to stay humble in my opinions about things. And that's why one of the things I don't do is comment politically on Facebook, or social media at all, actually, because one of the things that happens is that you put your opinion out there in your kind of bombastic way that we always do with our own opinions, believing that we're right, only to find out that there's like 5 other different ways of looking at the same thing that you haven't thought about. And then you can look like a bit of a fool because you've kind of gone out there all guns blazing, saying your opinion, only to find out that actually, you didn't think through every single kind of part of this argument. And you're left either having to kind of admit that you were perhaps wrong, or you can, what many of us do, would double down on our opinion instead of admitting that perhaps it wasn't the full picture. And then doubling down on something means that you're kind of taking the stance of like, I'm not even going to admit if I was wrong. And then we're in that situation of people arguing a point that they don't even believe in themselves. And that happens way too often. I think it happens in politics all the time. People double down on stuff even though they don't really believe it. And so I think in a time like this, where we're at in the world, in politics, in culture, and everything that's going on, we need to stay humble and realize that actually we don't know everything, and our opinion isn't the be-all and end-all. And actually the way that we communicate and the way that we act and what we say does have a huge influence. So we need to watch what we're saying and be careful about what we're saying. Not that we never say anything, and the way that we say things and the way that we present ourselves has a massive influence. In the same way that saying nothing and doing nothing also has an influence. You are influential. I am influential, regardless of how many people have ever told us that they think that we've got something to say or that we're influential or worth listening to. It has nothing to do with that. We're influential regardless of however many people say that we are, or however people kind of follow us or listen to us. Your actions, your words, your deeds, they're influential all the time. So I think we've always got to be careful and stay humble. That's a load of ramble, I know that, and I've just kind of let it roll off from the top of my head in a bit of a stream of consciousness. But I do think about stuff like this and think it's important for us to realize that our influence actually stretches further and goes deeper and wider than we realize. Motorcycles, though, probably the answer to most of life's problem, I imagine. If we're honest with ourselves, we all know that to be true. What I've really enjoyed here is that I've just found somewhere new that I've never been before in the center of Bath, and I can't actually get out that way. The gate is locked. Maybe I'm not even supposed to be here. But Chapel Court, you want to come for a little kind of chat with yourself? in a peaceful place, then I think it's worth it. St. John's Hospital from 1969. It's the perfect place to come for your coffee and sandwich at lunchtime, isn't it? If you work in Bath, they probably don't want you to know that, because this would just be flooded with people every day otherwise, wouldn't it? This is the cutest little cinema ever. I've actually been to a wedding in there, and it's a tiny little cinema, but really lovely. Now these guys, Schwartz Brothers Burgers, they've been here for years. I used to come here when I was a kid and do some of the best burgers you could ever eat. Absolutely love them. Should I have one now? Nah, I don't think so. It's tempting, but I'm not gonna. But look at that, that's a great place. I'm actually thinking one of my bike trips being over to Germany. There's a place called Dolph's Burger in Hamburg that I'm considering visiting. So riding all the way to Hamburg on my bike just to get a burger over there, because I think it would be a bit of a laugh. So, and because my Triumph is a Hinckley, it could be like hamburger in Hamburg on a Hinckley. It's got a better ring, hasn't it, if it was a hamburger in Hamburg on a Harley. Maybe I should get a Harley just for that reason. To be honest, if I had a double garage with enough space, I would have probably bought one ages ago. But it's because I haven't got anywhere to put it right now, and I am loath to have my motorcycles outside. I feel like they need a proper home. It's a weird thought though, isn't it? Because you can't use a motorcycle inside, so you only use a motorbike outside anyway. But when you kind of want to store it, you want to store it inside all the time. I don't know what that's all about. It's like desire to kind of look after your motorbike in a way that it doesn't really matter if it's outside, really, because you can only use it outside anyway. You know what I mean? The thought of having my bike outside, suffering in the wind and the rain, it's not a good thought. So that's why I haven't got myself kind of a Harley and just stuck one of them outside under a cover. I've kind of got to build something to keep it safe. If I'd known that I was going to be so obsessed with having a second bike, I would have built the Thunder Cave quite a bit bigger than it is. Right, look at these lovely little streets. These places are awesome. Everyone's out eating, doing their thing. I actually probably need to head back because Lillian does have a couple of little DIY things she wants me to do today, which I'm more than happy to do. I've actually left my helmet just on the handlebars of the bike, so I hope the helmet's still there when I get back, but I just hate carrying my helmet around town. It's the worst thing ever. I love my flapjack. It's the best. So this is one of my favorite Indian restaurants ever. It's called the Pearl of India now, but it used to be called the Indian Eye. I won't actually go up there, but I'll show you this picture. This is what it looks like upstairs. Just looks awesome. Nicolas Cage came here for his Indian one day. But I think Nicolas Cage and Johnny Depp, I think they own property in Bath, or used to, something like that, which is pretty cool. Walking through Bath like a tourist. I'm not a tourist here at all, but walking through Bath like a tourist. And actually, I'm starting to get a little bit comfortable with just nattering to the camera when I'm surrounded by people, even though it's a weird thing to do, let's be honest. Let's have a look at this cheese shop. There's a slab of cheese, if ever I've seen one. So you've seen a little bit of Bath. Right, so I'm gonna head back to the bike now, and I hope my helmet is still there, because I did leave it just hanging on the handlebars. Probably is. I mean, that's the worst thing I can imagine, is putting somebody else's skanky helmet on my head after it's been sweated in for like a year. Ugh. But I guess some people are just fancy nicking someone's helmet, I guess. Oh, the helmet is still there. I always think you can probably just leave your helmet on your bike, can't you? Probably. Who's gonna nick a helmet, really? All good. The Thunder's starting quite a lot easier than it did. I needed a little trip. even just a short one like that, that'll do me. So I can't really ever see myself getting a bike with injectors, purely because I kind of know just enough about mechanics to be able to fix stuff with carbs. But stuff with injectors, it's a bit of a different story, because you know, it involves a bit more of a plugging stuff in and things like that. I don't know, what's your experience with it? I think there are tuning kits that you can get that will link up to your phone and things like that, and with the injector sets, but I'm not entirely sure. I kind of like the idea of being able to spanner on something like I did with this. The carbs came off, I cleaned the carbs out. You can physically see what the problems are if there is a problem. Whereas with injectors, if something happens, you know, it could be more of an electrical thing, and there's no real way of fixing it without just kind of replacing the whole unit. I'm not sure. Maybe they never break, you know, so that's never an issue. But I like the idea of staying as purely mechanic as I possibly can with bikes, because with a Haynes manual, I will be able to figure it out eventually and get to the bottom of it. And I like the idea of being able to fix everything myself. Like, I'm the type of guy that I probably would never buy a brand new bike. That's probably never ever going to happen, because I don't even like the look of most new bikes. Like, it's all pointy plastics and stuff that I'm just not into at all. I like well engineered, actually I like over engineered stuff. It's not just well engineered. I like over engineered things, like this Triumph. The Triumphs that came from the Hinckley period, they are over engineered. Like, nobody can look at one of these and be like, well, that's just about gonna meet the tolerances that it needs. No, it's like a tank, and I love that about them. They're very difficult to break. So I like the idea of being able to fix stuff myself, being able to get the spanner out on it, and knowing that I can get to the bottom of it without some major kind of diagnostic tools. So, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Loads of you are going to have bikes with injectors, and loads of you are going to have bikes with carbs. That's why the only interesting Harley Davidson Sportsters, should I get one, is going to be from 2004 to 2006. Because the 2004 models, that's when they went rubber mount with the engine, and the 2006 model was the last year that they used carburetors before it went injected. Because I just love spannering. I love spannering on stuff, even though I don't always know what I'm doing. When you've taken a bike apart, if you've got something you need to do and you've taken that part of the bike apart, you know all about that bike, or that part of the bike, by the time you've done it. Like, when you've spanned on something yourself, you have learnt loads. You have really got your head around things, and you'll never pay hundreds of pounds to get it done in a garage. You just won't, because you're like, well, Saturday morning I'll be able to fix up myself with a couple of spanners and a bit of carb cleaner and maybe a couple of bits, a couple of jets that I need to replace, or whatever it might be. And that's the beauty of it, is that once you've done it, you know you can do it, and you put it back together and it rides fine, and you're like, yep, I'm good to go. This afternoon I have got a couple of small little DIY jobs to do around the house, and then I am going to sit down to watch the rugby Six Nations, England against Scotland, this afternoon. Well, that was an awesome ride. Great to be back out on the Thunderbird again, and she is running so well. So I think it's been a great success, everything that I had to do, everything I did on the bike. The Thunderbird is back. And you just know that this bike, you put it on another 5,000 mile trip and it will just munch those miles with no trouble whatsoever.